probably the set I've played with the most in my life. It's just one that I had on display for so long that I would actually, anytime I passed it, I'd be like, okay, well, let's hold on, let's do a ride. I'd crank that thing up and have zip it down, and then I'd be like, okay, we'll do one more, and really, really cool sets. Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things LEGO from the perspective of two adult collectors. I am your solo host today, and today I will be talking all about the Fairground collection. So just wanted to get into a quick PSA. We actually had to kind of pivot last minute here as we were having some technical difficulties this weekend, and then West is now actually traveling, or not traveling, moving across the country, which is a big ordeal, and he is currently underway with that adventure to a new place. So good luck to West. I know you will be listening to this tomorrow, so do apologize about the delays in getting this episode out, but I just wanted to be transparent with all the listeners there. And then also let you know that we're actually going to be coming up on a July break here. So this will be the last episode until Monday, August 5th. We will be back to our normally scheduled podcast. And part of the reason we're taking a break is because West is literally currently moving as I'm recording this. I just moved, and we just wanted to make sure that we reevaluate the podcast and where we were with it, and then more importantly, just refresh it, update anything that we need to, just give ourselves a little bit of time to kind of take a step back, evaluate it, and make sure that we're bringing the best podcast that we can bring to you forward. So we're going to just take a break to recharge and refresh and reevaluate. And then, like I said, we will be back on August 5th, and we will be talking about how to display your Lego collection. So I know we talked about, collection fatigue, curating your collection, right? This kind of all led up to this conversation of displaying your collection, and we will have that episode for you on August 5th. So with that out of the way, I did just want to thank all of the listeners so far for listening to the show. Whether or not you've been here from the very first episode to this 19th episode that we've recorded since the start of the year, thank you so much for listening. To each and every one of you, we appreciate your listens, your support, your feedback, and all of it. So let's move on to the main topic, or to exciting Lego news today.
Exciting Lego news.
So we had all the exciting Lego news all set up on Sunday, and then lo and behold, we had technical difficulties for like an hour Sunday, and we had to pivot, and then now we're here, and literally a ton of news also just dropped. So that's super exciting. We've got all of that information here. So I had to add a couple things, but we've got a lot to get through here with the news. So we got this UCS, for lack of better terms, C3PO that was revealed. That is actually to scale with the R2D2 that came out a couple of years ago, the UCS R2D2 that came out. It looks pretty good. I've seen a couple of people with concerns about the price to part ratio. Totally get that. It doesn't have the best price to part ratio on it, but it looks fantastic. It also has some nice printed pieces, or sorry, looks like those are most likely stickers. I apologize, but it has a lot of probably recolorations here into pearl gold. So if you're a pearl gold fan, you'll love this. So I imagine they probably had to do a lot of recoloring to be able to just make this in the correct color scale. So I can happily say there is very little dark tan on here. There are some areas where there's some dark tan, but it is mostly pearl gold, as it should be. So that's really, really exciting. Whereas like with the UCS Hulkbuster that they did, they literally just didn't have some of the pieces in pearl gold, so they just didn't do it. So we got that set. The eyes look a little weird to me, but I don't know, maybe a print would have been better there. but it doesn't look terrible. The print might have just looked off and weird anyways, but I do feel like whenever they do these highly detailed scale models, it's always the eyes, isn't it? Like with the Yoda that came out, the Grogu, I think they got pretty spot on, but like the Porg, the original Yoda, the original Darth Maul, the eyes are must be the most difficult part here. Couple of other Star Wars set information. We got the Sarlacc pit announced. This is the Desert Skiff and Sarlacc pit. This comes with the 9 Nub 25th anniversary figure. He looks awesome. The Sarlacc pit itself looks like it takes up the majority of the piece allocation in this set. It's quite built up. Compared to Sarlacc pits that we got in the past that are just, it coming off of a plate. This actually has got kind of full sand built up around it. So I've seen a couple people kind of complain about the price because it is $80 for this set, um, which does feel a little bit expensive. It's 558 pieces, but the skiff looks really good, and you do get quite a few minifigures. There's actually 6 minifigures total. You get a Boba Fett, you get a Lando, Chewie, Han, Luke. So they really didn't skimp on the minifigures here. And then more importantly, what I've heard is this is actually going to kind of match up and be to scale with the UCS Jabba Sales Barge. So I imagine those two sets will look really, really good together. And if you're going to get one, you'll probably get the other, or you'll probably just get the sail barge and this. If you get this, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the sail barge, but I digress. We also got the Ahsoka Tano set revealed from the Ahsoka show, another one. We've got a couple already. This one is called Ahsoka Tano's Duel on Peridia. Peridia, I think I said that right. I watched that show once and probably will never watch it again, so sorry about that. But it looks like we get some really cool stickers with this one, anyways. But it kind of reminds me of like that Obi-Wan duel set that they did. A little bit of a boring build, right? It's just kind of a platform, and then there's meant to be a lot of action here with the duel itself. And this set has 382 pieces and retails for $55. So oh, I'm laughing here because I'm looking at the first Reddit comment says this set will go so hard on clearance. um, yeah, that's exactly where my thought process was actually. This release is August 1st. It comes with 5 minifigures. You do get a Admiral Thrawn, a one of his stormtroopers. It looks like a Morgan, and then a Ezra, and an Ahsoka. So there are quite a few minifigures that come with this set, 5 total. So typically at a set this size, you'd see like maybe 2 or 3. So I feel like a lot of that price is actually going to the minifigures. And then that is it for Star Wars news. I'm just checking my list here. Oh no. Oh gosh, actually, not oh no. Actually, no. Oh no. We got more information on the Droid Factory set that we kind of ripped a new one last week. Um, yeah, no. So last week all we had was a kind of teaser, some marketing material that we got that kind of outlined part of the set. This is all of it. We got the official reveal about 5 days ago, and yeah, it went from bad to worse. It comes with the 4 astromech droids, like we talked about. You get R2, you get Chopper. I'm blanking on the name for the other droid. It's not from the movies, which I think is a mess. They should have done something else from the movies in my mind. And then they've got a pink one called KTQT. uh, I see what you did there. But this comes with the young Leia 25th anniversary minifigure. So I will be getting that minifigure on Bricklink because I'm not going to spend $100 on this, and I'll just buy the minifigure for 20. But they, if you were looking at the set leak, you'll know that it didn't seem like there was 1,200 pieces in there, and that's because it didn't show you all the pieces. Because essentially, this is a R2D2 Mr. Potato Head set. So with the marketing material I'm looking at right now, you've got R2D2 with a rubber ducky floaty. You heard that correctly. And what looks like Ash Ketchum's hat on. and you can put a mustache on him, some glasses, a bow tie, a cowboy hat. Um, yeah, so this is just not it. This is definitely not it for me. And I think really the real reason I'm kind of a Debbie Downer on this set, to be honest, is it's a 25th anniversary set. This is an opportunity to really have a special set here, right? You've got an exclusive minifigure coming out on a very nice display here, right? And this is it. We have four astromech droids, two of them that don't even appear canonically that Lego just made up, which is fine for Lego to make stuff up, but that's fine. I know you had to take some, creative liberties here, but I just, it's a 25th anniversary set. This would have been perfect for a Gungan sub, right? You could have done that, right, to celebrate episode one. You could have done a um, Geonosis Arena set, right? There could have been so much more that we could have done here rather than this Mr. Potato Head R2D2 that, I'm not disappointed in the set. If you want to do this, totally fine. And if you like this, more power to you. I'm disappointed that it's a 25th anniversary set. So I'll just leave that right there. We've got a lot of other news to cover. Something that really surprised me actually was this MIDI scale helicarrier that was announced. This looks really awesome. So it's to the same scale as the Malevolence, the Tanty 4, and the Millennium Falcon in MIDI scale that we got earlier this year. It uses that same exact stand, and this set goes hard in the paint. I mean, this thing is awesome. I will definitely be picking this thing up. It looks like there is some stickered or printed, I'm not sure, pieces of the runway, and it looks identical to the print that they like. It looks like they literally just scaled down that graphic art from the UCS one and printed it on a what is that, a 2x6 tile. So I'm very excited about this. I was pleasantly surprised to see this one announced just 2 days ago as well. So that's really cool. Um, Officially available now as of the last 24 hours, the Micro Ninjago City Markets as well as the Gardens is available. They released them both at the same time in the VIP Reward Center. They both look excellent. If you're like me, you've already got the docks and the city. Those will probably be in the VIP rewards section for a while. They've restocked the city, they've restocked the docks, so I don't think you need to go out right away and get it. If you're like me, you did because you're an addict and Lego take my money. But PSA, you can't actually. You have to redeem the code in the VIP Reward Center, and you have to do it on two different transactions. You can't use more than one promo code on the same transaction. So don't go and get the most expensive set on your list to get these. Make one order, put one on of $40 set, and then do the same again if there's two sets that you want. That way you can get them both right away and don't have to wait. We got a ton of information on set numbers, names, as well as piece counts announced for three new themes: Lego Fortnite. I believe it said October 1st for these. Lego Wednesday, and then Lego Wicked. So each of these sub themes, or each of these themes, I should say, sorry, has about 3 to 4 sets per. I'm not going to go through every single piece count and every single set number, but I think I'm excited to see what they honestly come up with for the Fortnite sets. I've actually never played Fortnite, so I'm probably not going to buy them, but there could be some cool like minifigures there. And then the Lego Wednesday could be interesting to kind of see what they come up with there. And then Wicked, that's kind of a classic. So I know my wife really likes Wicked, so we'll see if she asks me to pick up any of those for her. I always chomp at the bit at the opportunity to buy my to buy my wife Lego. So I just listen to what she wants, and then she tells me, which is less frequently than I would like. But that's okay. That's okay. Um, and then what else do we get? Oh, we got some new cool pieces for Build a Minifigure parts revealed. So if you're a fan of Build a Minifigures at the Lego store, you can get those. It looks like a dog will be there now, a golden retriever. That's exciting. Some kind of sports theme one. So there's a horseback rider, like equestrian champion with the trophy. We have a swimmer with the gold medal piece. So if you need some gold medal pieces, You can go pick those up at Build a Minifigure stations at Lego stores. They also have like a mime, like a French looking mime. I say French because they put a baguette in his hand. They did that, not me. And then kind of like a young adult with a cool, like, I don't know if it's soda pop or some sort of soft drink style t-shirt. So, and then I believe just a kind of regular person in a jacket. So some cool sets here. Oh, and then of course somebody with like a full length ball gown dress. So if you're just looking for diversity and kind of minifigure torsos and leg prints, then you got that here for sure. Lastly, as far as the news goes, actually, I've got two more things. We got the next gift with purchase promo announced within that kind of small building, micro modulars, I guess you could say. They're not really modulars because they don't snap together, and they're not the same scale as those tiny modulars we got. I don't think so, but they're doing kind of this sub theme of different buildings. They did the houses around the world. We just got a flower shop as well. This is the sweet shop will be our next. So it's a candy shop that will be coming out next. So some actually a pretty good part pack here. I wasn't super excited about it at first, but taking a closer look into it, a lot of really nice pieces, some interesting colors, and then as well as potentially some interesting prints here too. So that will be a nice little gift with purchase if you spend $200. And it looks like coming early July, so it's not out as of recording yet. And what I have in front of me, take it with a grain of salt because it's a leak and not an official Lego announcement. It says July 9th. So that'll be cool if you just want some, a piece pack essentially, or if you're a fan of those smaller building scales, smaller scaled buildings, you have those there too. All right, and lastly, from some Technic news, we got the next large supercar announced. It will be the Technic McLaren P1. That'll be 3,893 pieces, and it will be releasing August 1st. I know a lot of people are big fans of those Technic supercars, the larger scale ones too. Those always look really, really great. I'm not a huge Technic person, so I typically don't collect those. Actually, and by typically, I mean literally never. But I've always appreciated those sets for sure. I mean, those are really nice sets. They do a great job with them, and I'm sure the McLaren P1 will look awesome too. We don't have any official images of that yet. And then kind of same news here, or along the same lines, we got the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute White Hypercar official reveal. This one is also coming out August 1st for, is that a typo? $50? It has 801 pieces and it's coming out for $50. I know it's a Technic set. But like the McLaren P1 was 3,893 pieces and that was for $450. And this is $50 for 801 pieces. I guess you can't use price per part, huh? But no, this looks really good. Again, I'm not a huge Technic fan, but it looks good, and my gosh, that looks just like a really, really great deal. So the price is just phenomenal on there. This is the 16th scale car, I believe they're 16th scale. But yeah, it looks solid. It looks really, really solid. If I was a Technic fan, I would certainly be excited about this one for sure. So that is the Lego news. Let's go ahead and move over to our main topic today.
Today's topic.
All right, so today's topic, we're going to be talking all about the Lego Fairground collection, and what an excellent sub-theme. So this is actually a sub-theme of Creator Expert. It originally, revolved, nostalgia around Creator Expert. There was a sub-theme of Creator Expert. It resides under Icons, of course. So that was 2020 and on. And this is similar, right, to the sub-themes of the modular buildings, the Winter Village collection, or the Creator Expert cars that they've done. And I mean, just really, really, what a solid sub-theme too, right? I mean, for me, modular buildings has to be up there as one of the best sub-themes and just themes altogether, right? Followed pretty closely behind by Winter Village, and then definitely this. I mean, the Fairground collection is just excellent. So this actually started back in 2014, and it's been going, since now. I'll get to that in a little bit because I think there's a question mark in the air about this sub theme, and whether it's really going to continue or not, because historically this year would have been the year that we saw a new one of these sets. So hopefully we get one next year. That would be awesome, because we kind of missed it this year. But I digress. We started back in 2014 with the Fairground mixer, and honestly, that still doesn't really feel like it belongs within the sub theme. There's just something a little off with it, and I'll get to that when I look at all the sets in more details. You know, Closely after that, we had the Ferris wheel in 2015, followed by the carousel in 2017, and then one of the best Lego sets of all time, in my opinion, the original roller coaster that came out in 2018. My wife actually got that for me as a graduation gift for college. So, shout out to you. And then in 2020, we got the Haunted House, which was a little bit of a different take on these. Certainly incredibly detailed, but also kind of doesn't really fit in my mind anyways. I'll get to why in a moment here. And then most recently we got the loop coaster 2 years ago, so it's never been longer than 2 years that we've gotten one of the sets. They certainly haven't come out every single year, but there's been 6 sets in total. They've been out since 2014, so that's ongoing 10 years, and now we're approaching 2+ years between sets. So that's where there's a little bit of a question mark for me. I'd love to see them continue these. I know they're received really, really well and typically sell pretty well. We'll get to you in a moment, Loop Coaster. But yeah, by now we would have had a set. They normally are out in May, June, or July of the season. So I'm surprised or that we didn't get one announced this year. Hopefully we get one next year. I'll talk about at the end what I'd like to see here as a future set within this collection. But let's start out. What makes these sets special? For me, it's got to be the scale and the details, right? I mean, these are just huge, and they're usually built up on plates, right? And then they've got a grand presence. I've seen some people integrate these into cities, and they kind of don't perfectly fit, because next to a house, if you were to build a small Lego house, sure they fit pretty well, right? But next to like a modular, they're huge, right? So there's the scale is just a touch off. I think what they've actually done with like the Creator 3-in-1 sets is probably a little bit of a better scale for some of these. Speaking of like the Ferris wheels and the little smaller kind of like cup rides that they've done, but gotta love these sets. I mean, they are so cool, so detailed, and just look awesome. And there's just something fun about the color palette that they've done here. The color palette is really light, exciting, energetic, and inviting in my mind, and also simple, right? Because they're Fairground sets. So, reds, yellows, blues, on a kind of neutral base that really allows those colors to pop and shine. So there's just a lot to love with these sets overall. So let's start out, right. 2014, we got the Fairground mixer, and this one really doesn't feel like it belongs for me, and I often kind of think of it as the forgotten stepchild of sets here. Smallest piece count, right? This one had 1,750 pieces, but also the most minifigures, interestingly enough. So also really the best price was $150. But yeah, 1,700 pieces here, and it also includes a fence that goes around the base of it, and this whole thing folds up and fits into a truck. So part of the build is actually, it's just a flatbed truck that pulls along the Fairground mixer, and then you can unfold it, you set up the fence around it. There's a couple of stations for like tickets and games and stuff like that, and some of these ideas kind of live throughout each one of these sets as we move forward. But this was the first and only set that actually was more of a carnival ride, right? Where it was meant to be transported and moved around. And, you know, if I were to see a repeat in this one, we did see one. We got the roller coaster again. I would have preferred to see a repeat with this because the other sets within this series are actually built up off the ground, right? So they all, you know, are built up off of a base and a few plates, and then, some scenery and some foliage and landscaping around the actual ride. This one feels very barren and a little naked, to be honest, because you don't get that greenery surrounding the ride. Not to say that it's a bad set, but I think the piece count could have been reallocated to other things than just the functionality of having a truck pull it around. So, I don't know if they kind of started in this direction and like, actually, no, let's just do it this way, or what, the history was there. I did go back and watch the designer videos. Jamie Beard actually kind of kicked this off. So, legendary Lego designer, he did a lot of the modulars, and then he's also, of course, the judge, or one of the judges, I should say, on Lego Masters. So epic designer, really awesome sets. And yeah, the Fairground Mixer was the first one, and it just doesn't quite fit in my mind. It definitely feels more carnival-y than theme parky, but it is the Fairground collection, so you kind of decide what side of the line it should fall on. Should it be more of a carnival ride or more of a actual theme park ride that you see is stationary in the ground and not necessarily meant to move around, from town to town. Up next, we got the Ferris wheel, and the next two are just like the most solid Lego sets I think of all time. There's nothing truly extraordinary about them, but they just deliver in the perfect way. So we got the Ferris wheel. Really like the color palette here. This is built off the ground. It's got a kind of white wheel with some transparent pieces to give it a little bit of a pop and represent kind of lights going up and down, the facades and sides of it. And then you've got some green, yellow, purple cars, or buckets, whatever they're called, on a Ferris wheel, that add a nice little color pop to it with some light blue supports that look really, really nice. One of the coolest play features I think has ever been in a Lego set. I know I talked about that with the Western sets a lot too, about how there's some really awesome play features there. This one didn't come to mind at the time when we were talking about that, but this is a phenomenal play feature. So the cars will obviously rotate like a Ferris wheel, right? Duh. The mechanism for that is actually really cool too. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but we're here, and it's a wheel. It's just a regular wheel that actually rotates to move the bigger wheel. It's just a tire. So the functionality of it rotates that tire, and that helps push the actual wheel around. So that's how the wheel gets up, and that's on a gear, of course, that moves. But then there's a functionality for the station platform, so you can have the cars, right? You can go to load the cars, and then the platform itself will go from being kind of semicircular and bent. You can make it go upright and diagonal so that the minifigures can actually load onto the ride, and then you pull a lever and it'll go back to being a semicircle, or curved, so that the cars can pass through without hitting it. However, if you don't do that, you can't move the cars because they'll obviously run into the ground, and that's just a really cool touch. I mean, it's just kind of like a falling floorway, so that the minifigures can get into the world of the minifigures here. They can safely enter the ride, and then the ride floor falls out, so it becomes floorless, so that it can then rotate around without hitting the floor. And like, that is just Lego play features, like purity, right? I mean, just a really, really awesome Lego play feature, and one that I think is kind of underappreciated. Up next, we have the carousel here. Oh, the carousel again, kind of continuing with that like yellow color scheme on a neutral kind of color, right? So it's a tan kind of base, and then you've got some really nice accent colors with some of that light blue that we saw with the Ferris wheel as well. And then you got the animals on there, and another really cool feature. I don't know if this is really a play feature because you don't really interact with it, but you obviously rotate the carousel around, right? And then This one has the animals on it. So there's a swan, a flamingo, an elephant, a tiger, and a frog. And the frog will bounce up and down as the carousel moves, which is a really nice touch. All the animals bounce up and down, minus the swan. That one is planted into the ground, but the frog has some legs that are suspended from it, and they actually move up and down to make it look like he's jumping up as the carousel is moving around, and it's just a really cool look on display. I will say both of these, when you plug them into the power functions, all of these are designed to be used with power functions. Just plug it in and go. This one and the Ferris wheel rotate a little bit too fast for my liking. There's ways to modify the Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel is like comically too fast. I mean, my gosh, that thing looks like a nausea rocket instead of a Ferris wheel. It's just like woo. Um, so I wish that they had designed it a little bit tighter, in terms of realism, and made it so that, they just need to gear it up and use a larger gear so the rotation takes a little bit longer. And I think, out of the box, that would have been a really simple thing to do instead of having to rely on people to modify, because like that thing is just like whips around. And then the carousel's a little bit too fast too. That's more of a nitpick than the Ferris wheel. Like the Ferris wheel's obviously way too fast. But that's just a little bit of criticism that I had for these first two sets. But just, I mean, like I said, just, I mean, the most solid Lego sets. I mean, if you talk about a 4.9 out of 5, I mean, like, it's not legendary, but I mean, they are just so excellent, these first two. One that is legendary, at least in my mind, is the roller coaster. So I don't know if any of our listeners were fans of Connects. I believe that's what they're called, right? Connects. That old system that used like those like tubes that connected into like these joints of various angles. But when I was growing up, they had a ginormous roller coaster. I mean, humongous roller coaster. That thing was like 4 feet tall, and I never got that. I think our friend had it actually, our neighbor had it, but it made me want a Lego roller coaster so bad. And I had to wait like 24 years for that bad boy to come out, and it did, and boy, did it deliver. And this is one too, like these roller coaster pieces have been used multiple times before. And in fact, this is the only one of these fairground sets that have been repeated uh, to date. And like I mentioned, there's only 6 sets here, so to have a repeat and really have 5 unique concepts, it's a little bit disappointing to me. And we'll get to the loop coaster. I'm still coming for you, buddy. But this original roller coaster is excellent. One of my favorite things about this roller coaster too is the queue. The line to get to the ride is excellent. It just kind of snakes through the base and the grass, and as you're building it, it's just so fun because you're also kind of setting up where the track's gonna go. And from a minifigure perspective, it's just kind of fun to like walk through this imaginary line, and then there's a little photo shop there where you can buy your ride photo, a little lemonade stand where you can get a drink, and then it all continues just around the tracks and then up to the actual ride itself. And then there's the station platform, which they did a really, really good job with. And cool set. I mean, just a cool set. This one also plugs in with the power function. You can actually just let it go. So there's multiple cars on here, and you can just let this thing roll. You just kind of unlock the station platform so that it just runs through, and you can do a couple of rides with it. My first cat, Finn, loved this roller coaster. I remember I built it, and I posted a video on Reddit of my cat staring at the roller coaster. So he watched it for like hours, just watched this roller coaster go up and down and zig around, and really, really cool. This is probably the set I've played with the most in my life. It's just one that I had on display for so long that I would actually, anytime I passed it, I'd be like, okay, well, let's hold on, let's do a ride. I'd crank that thing up and have zip it down, and then I'd be like, okay, we'll do one more, and really, really cool set. So that was a roller coaster, just a dream come true for me, as you could tell probably by this kind of sub review. I really like that set. So up next we got the haunted house. And this was a little bit of a departure from what we currently seen because this was the first kind of like thematically themed ride. And by that I mean it's a drop tower. But what's interesting is a haunted house is a typical theme park ride, right? I mean, you do kind of see those. So I personally wish they had focused on either the drop tower or the haunted house aspect of it because for me, this set is excellent as a haunted house, but it falls short in the theme park ride department. First and foremost, you have to have this thing open in order to really enjoy it. So on display, it looks cool when it's closed because it's so big, but all the details are on the inside. And so far, you can enjoy all of these other sets from the outside. And yes, this is a drop tower, so there's a little crank that you can crank and you'll crank up the little cart to the very, very top. And then the windows, I should say, will open so you can see the minifigures up there and then it'll drop. And cool play feature, really well designed. The set is gorgeous, but it's just a little bit less kind of exciting from a ride perspective because you just don't really see it. You just don't really see it unless you have it opened up. But like I said, this already takes up a ton of real estate. So, you're typically going to have this thing closed off so that you have room for other stuff. So that's for this one. I know a lot of people really like it, so I kind of tread, carefully on my criticism, but I want to be honest, and that's really how I feel about it. I wish that they had just focused on the haunted house aspect, and then I wish we had gotten a more traditional drop tower like you see at real theme parks, right, where they just go around a center column and then they drop. It might not have been, as interesting as say the haunted house on the inside, but for a theme park ride, it definitely, certainly would have been more accurate for the theme park ride. So for me, this just feels like one of those sets where it wanted to be two things, and it doesn't do either of those things extremely well because of that. I think if they had focused just on the haunted house aspect, they could have had a huge haunted house, right? And had a lot more details, but instead, there's not enough room. Like the minifigures can't even really walk through it or use it. You can't really display the minifigures within the haunted house. They have to use that area on the outside of the set, which is not studded, right? That's just your table. So that's why this one's a little bit of a miss for me. Still a really beautiful set. There's some really cool design ideas in here, like the organ is a really awesome mini build that they have. There's a lot of Easter eggs for Johnny Thunder, which of course is an awesome theme as well. And I just love them harkening back to old themes like that and kind of continuing the lore of those within other themes. I love that touch. That's probably a huge highlight for me here. But yeah, the rest of the actual ride, you can barely load minifigures in this thing. That's challenging. There's a queue inside of it that you can't access very well, and to access it, it's kind of like part of it, and it the details are there, but for me, less details here would have been better for the ride, or more details would have been better if you gut the ride and just have a haunted house. So love a lot of aspects of the set. I might sound like I'm being a little down on it, but it comes from a place of passion and a good place because I certainly really like the set. But that's just why it was a little bit of a miss for me compared to the other theme park sets here. Last and certainly least, we had the Loop roller coaster. And no, I mean, look, we got the Lego roller coaster. Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a roller coaster that did a loop? And the answer is yes. It is really cool. Unfortunately, there's two loops here, so you have to get this thing really, really tall. So they use a elevator lift to get up there, and elevator lifts are very rare in real life. I've been on one roller coaster with an elevator lift, and I can name like three of them otherwise. So there's just this big part intensive column in the middle to get this thing incredibly high very fast without using as much real estate, right? Otherwise, this thing would have to be probably another half of its length to be able to get that chain lift up there, just so it can do two loops. The roller coaster was fun because you could sit there and hey, I'm gonna crank this thing up, the ride starts and then they go up and they go down and they turn and they go up again and they go down and they turn. With this one, it is literally, if you blink, it's done because it has to go so fast to get to both of those loops. In fact, I've played a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I bet this would be like extreme nausea and intensity because it just goes straight up and then like straight down, zoop zoop zoop, and then turns and it's done. And you just don't have that excitement here. You do it once and you're like, okay, can we watch that in slow mo? And then that way it'll be 10 seconds long. Um, so yeah, I just misallocation of parts in my mind because we use so many parts to actually make that lift hill, right? A really cool color scheme. This is a little bit of a departure of the more kind of lighter color scheme that we have. We have dark blue and then that key orange, that flame yellow color looks really, really good. I like the contrast of the lighter color track on the darker color supports. It just makes that track pop, right? But unfortunately, it just kind of falls short in those departments that I really laid out, and it's a little bit of a shame because we got a roller coaster literally two sets before this, right? There was the roller coaster, the haunted house, and then this. So I think it maybe in 10 years it would have been better. So roller coaster came out in 2018 instead of having this come out 2 years later, having that come out now, right? Or 2026 would have been much better in my opinion. I also think this one didn't sell well and might be the reason there's been a little bit of a gap between sets here. As I mentioned at the start of this main topic conversation, this set was the last one to come out. It came out in 2022. So that means there's been a 2 year gap. We've never had more than 2 years of between sets. And most likely, if I was a betting man, I'd say we were not getting another Fairground set until next year at the very earliest. So that would mean we'd be on 3 years without a Fairground set. So, and I do recall this one not selling well. I know it was a little bit criticized based off the price and the piece count for it. And really, what you got here, it was literally, it is mental math, sorry, $30 more expensive than the roller coaster, and it comes with 400 pieces less than the roller coaster did. So, which just came out 2 years earlier. It was still on, or it just had retired literally 6 months before this set came out. So, just kind of like the Death Star happened with Star Wars for the UCS Death Star, and then they pulled it from the shelf for like a year, and then pretty much redid it and just increased the price by $200 and a couple of more pieces on it. This is kind of the opposite. This is literally they increased the price but took away pieces. So yeah, it didn't sell well. It went on 4 times VIP sale for a while there with the Black Panther bust as well as the Hogwarts UCS Hogwarts Express. So I hope this didn't kill the theme because then I'm really gonna hate this set. But it is still an awesome set, right? It's still an awesome set. And certainly, if you missed the first roller coaster, I don't think you're necessarily disappointed with this one. But in my opinion, the first one was certainly better. So for me, that's kind of the set overview. The in my mind, the best set is the roller coaster, the original one, the red and white one, and the worst set is the loop coaster, the latest set that we got. I just kind of talked about that in detail on why I feel that way. Certainly, I know some people really like that loop roller coaster, but I think one loop would have been better, right? You wouldn't have to get it as high nor as fast, but I don't know if one loop just wouldn't suffice or what, but that's where we are. We got a roller coaster with two loops instead. So I think the Ferris wheel and the carousel are really, really stellar sets. They're just solid. I love what the haunted house was trying to do, but remember, it's not a haunted house. It is, but it's also a drop tower, so that's just kind of hard to make in Lego, right? You really needed to make it a little bit bigger to fully capture and execute that idea. I like the Fairground mixer as well. That's the one that I would like to see remade here. If we were gonna do a remake, I've obviously like to see a novel set idea, but if we were gonna do a remake, I'd be okay with that one because I think there's a lot you could do. Build up the base out of plates, right? maybe build up a small little fence on the outside of it, but put a flower bed behind it. Really kind of make the set feel like it's stationary, right? Give it a little bit of a themage, right? The actual set itself was very plain. It was just some colored chairs, that were built around a rotating platform. Build up those chairs a little bit, make it feel a little bit more stationary than it did, and I think you'd have another knockout set here for sure. So some pros of this set, I kind of have already mentioned, or sorry, pros for the collection. Kind of already mentioned it. They're highly detailed. If you love amusement parks, I mean, like you are not disappointed with any of these sets, really. I mean, even the loop coaster that I just ripped on is still an awesome set. I mean, it's an elevator lift, that's cool. It does two loops, that's cool. Um, but the cons to these are that they take up a ton, and I mean a ton of room. I can't afford to have any of them on display. First of all, they don't really fit into a display cabinet. I mean, the carousel does, the Fairground mixer does, the haunted house kinda does because it's slimmer at least, but like that roller coaster is just humongous. And both of them are, right? Even though the loop coaster is incredibly tall, the Ferris wheel is kind of tall and awkward. So they don't really fit really well on shelves. They're also deep. They're also really deep. So that's definitely a big con and a real big watch out that I don't really see a lot of people talk about. I think because a lot of people that have these sets just incorporate them into their city. So we're actually going to talk about displaying your Lego collection here when we make a return in August. And one way that you can display your Lego collection is within a city, right? And I know a lot of people do that, right? You get modulars, you make a city, right? And the Fairground collection really works well for that. So I think most people, or most cases I've seen of people displaying these, it's been in like a theme park that they kind of make up within the city. They don't really work well as like a display piece on the shelf. Um, yeah, they just don't. They're just too deep. They're kind of awkward. They're hard. I mean, when you put them in the shelf, right? It's that set. You typically don't have a big enough shelf to really put something around it unless you're putting them, on the tops of shelves where you can kind of continue, across multiple shelves, or unless you're putting it on a table because they're just so darn big. I mean, they are huge. So I did chat with West beforehand, and West wanted to share his thoughts, of course, and he wanted to echo with the original sentiment that I had with these sets, which was what makes them special is their scale and details. I mean, they're just they're eye catchers, right? When you see them on display, when you see the power functions, when you see them going, really, really cool sets. Now, Wes did make a point that he loves them, but not enough to buy them. He enjoys them from a distance. And we talked about this with the curating our collection portion, right? Where, for sometimes it's just you appreciate the set for what it is. You marvel at it, you understand, the technique and the building that had to go into it and can appreciate that, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to add it to your personal collection. So West understands, what these have kind of brought to the Lego table, and how they've really kind of they stand on their own as really amazing sets, but does not have them in his own personal collection. So what's on the horizon? It's a little bit muddy for me for these sets. Um, like I mentioned, I am a little bit disappointed that we saw a duplicate so far. If we wanted to do a remake, I certainly think, the Fairground Mixer would have been a much better set to remake than a roller coaster, right? I mean, especially when we just got a roller coaster. As far as other sets that I'd like to see, I believe it was the original roller coaster that actually a had like a park map on it as part of like the build up. I think it was actually in the queue line that I mentioned that I like so much. And that had a call out to the Ferris wheel, or sorry, no, not the Ferris wheel, the carousel, and then it had a call out to a chair swing. One of those that has a lot of chain chairs that go. It's got like 100 chairs on it. You sit on the chair and it, kind of pops up and starts spinning, and then spins at an angle, and then goes faster and slower, and sometimes they go backwards. I think it was Was it the movie The Sandlot where they went on that after like chewing dip or something disgusting and ended up vomiting on everybody? Like famous scene from a famous movie that comes to mind. So I think that like a chair swing would be really cool. I think a swinging ship would be really really cool. Um, I mean, I'm just a sucker for Lego ship anyway, so like the boat hall would be an awesome, build, I'm sure, and then actually the feature of the swinging ship itself and the technique used to get that mechanism to work, I think would be just really cool to see how they got that. I think somebody did one on Lego Masters, and it was Lego Masters, so they were obviously building it like live, right? They didn't have time to sit here and kind of create a prototype and redo the mechanism. So the mechanism was a little bit wonky. I remember that, but like, what a great idea, right? Like a swinging ship would be really cool. Um, I mean, I would not like to see another roller coaster, but if we did, I'd like to see them try to do like different styles of roller coaster. So for me, the first one was more of a wooden roller coaster, just based off of how the structure support was built, and the newer one was more of like your modern day kind of steel roller coaster. I'd like to see them try to do a different type of roller coaster if they were to do that, like maybe like a wild mouse roller coaster or like a more well-known like Giga style roller coaster. That would be really cool. And then, also I'd like to see them kind of add a little bit of scenery to these, like having some game stalls. They did that with the first one, and they've kind of, here and there will add little like snack carts, right? They have a cotton candy cart, an ice cream cart, a little lemonade cart, a hot dog cart, you name it. But they kind of never revisited that game part, right? And I feel like so much of carnivals are games. I think another set that would be really cool would be like, bumper cars would be interesting, or maybe even like a Lego mini golf. Oh man, I really want to play Roller Coaster Tycoon now. I don't know if anybody else wants to. But yeah, I think I don't know what's on the horizon here though, because it is now the officially longest gap that we've gone without one of these sets. We typically have never gone more than 2 years. And unfortunately, we're at year 2 right now. So hopefully we get more of these sets. I don't know. We could maybe get one in August. I could be surprised tomorrow. But, with the number of larger sets that have already been announced for this year, um, doesn't look like we're getting one. So that is unfortunate. Let's move over to our next section in What Are We Building?
What are we building?
All right, so this week, West is obviously moving, but I know he got a couple speed champions that he's been working on, so that's exciting. I am, as you can see behind me, in utter chaos in my office here as I got a new desk to put together and get this area organized. I've been continuing to work on my actual building my Lego shelves. I've come up with a few just challenges, unforeseen challenges. Like when I cut the shelves, some of the shelves were just a little bit too long. And I mean like a quarter inch, but I had to recut, repaint them. I had shared last time my ideas for the doors that I was gonna do, just kind of make these flaps that pull on and off with magnets. Well, unfortunately, I was going to put on the magnets and literally like them, I'd kind of pull them apart and have them hit back, they pull back together and they shatter. And I'm like, oh crap. Okay, well, I'm not going to put these on and then, put my plexiglass thing back on and then have it shatter as it connects. Cause like, it's not like I was like throwing these things at each other. It's literally just like picking one off the ground and just shatter. And I'm like, this is not going to work. So I'm going to continue kind of pushing through building my shelves. The shelves are almost done. I'm working now. I got some IKEA shelves too to add because obviously, you know, building your shelves from like scrap plywood is a challenge and a much more time consuming than just building an IKEA shelf. But I built 5 my own so I could get a certain depth that was what was really important for me. So I could have things like Fort Legoredo on there. I could have things like Rivendell in there, because you do need a certain depth with a lot of the sets. I could have things like some Fairground collection sets if there's room in these. So I did that, and then I've got just a ton of IKEA shelves for just like shelf space as well. So I actually used in the past. I've used the Billies, which are actually right behind me if you're watching on YouTube. But for these, I used the shelf called the Besta. It's a little bit shorter, or not shorter, sorry, it's not as long, it's not as wide of a shelf, but it is about 50% deeper. So the billies are only about 11 inches deep, and these are about 15 inches deep. So that's going to just allow me to have a lot more of depth of display, because I've noticed, one challenge I had with the billies was a lot of the sets are a little bit too deep. Not a ton of them, but a lot of them are, but not necessarily. I mean, and I mean like an inch too deep. So not necessarily way deeper than, I don't need to put them on a custom made shelf to fit that depth. However, I do need a different solution. So that's why I went with the Besta. And of course, I'm putting lights into it. So I'm going to get all those set up. I'm going to get my Lego out on them. And then I am going to get the doors on them at a future date, probably in the next 3 months. I just want to get everything set up for right now so I can get them out of the boxes, get the collection set up, and then I'll focus on the door. So that way I can come out with this video on time, but also I'm just eager and excited to see my Lego collection. So I will get that all set up, and then probably do a follow-up video on the display as well once I get the doors in. I know too, once I get the actual display set up, I'll have to probably move some around, and then I definitely have room to add, like literally probably twice as many display cases, so I'm totally gonna do that. Oops. But yeah, I just, before I moved into the house, when we did a walkthrough, I kind of like, you know, measured out the space in my mind. I'm like, oh, I can do this for sure. So I ordered that, but I underestimated it a little bit. So I will definitely be getting some more display cases in that department for sure. Otherwise, all my physical building time has been going to that. So I've been playing some Counter Strike. I know that's not Lego related, but it's just been what I've been doing for the past couple weeks because I really enjoy that game. So that's kind of what I've been doing in my free time outside of work and regular life. So that is what are we building this week.
Brick mail.
So let's move over to Brick Mail. So in Brick Mail, we have a quite a few people that actually wrote in. We have a new review on iTunes from DocMan445. He says 5 stars. One of my top two favorite Lego podcasts. I mean, that right there, like, wow, awesome. Thank you so much, Docman. I know West saw this too, and he was, he's like, wow, what a nice review, nice comments, really nice feedback. So thank you so much, Docman. He goes on to say, hey guys, I just discovered your podcast and I am busily trying to catch up on the older episodes. I love the format that includes Lego news, an in-depth featured topic, and a discussion of your current builds. I most recently listened to your top 5 Lego sets of all time episode. So well done. Keep up the great work. And thank you so much, Docman. Appreciate the 5 star review, and really, really glad you're enjoying the content. I'm also glad that you liked the top 5 Lego sets of all time. I know we have on our docket towards the end of the year to do like a top 5 Lego sets of 2024 in kind of a similar format. So I'm glad that's worked out for you and that you've enjoyed it. And then we got an email from Robert Glass. He says, hello, Grinch and West. You guys do an outstanding job on the podcast, and it is now my favorite listen each week. I mean, wow, like I've heard the word favorite twice, and that just means a lot, you guys, seriously. I am a letter carrier in Indianapolis, and I found you guys about a month ago while delivering mail and got hooked. The insights and knowledge you guys have for AFOLs is great. I really loved your episode about moving your Lego, as I went through that process about 5 years ago when I had to move my collection from Phoenix to Indiana. Not fun. It is so exhausting, isn't it, Robert? Like moving a Lego collection, like I mean, like people lose pieces just by having Lego in their basement, or like moving a set in the house, like moving multiple sets across the country. Like it is nerve wracking because you just never know what you're gonna like get when you open that box, right? So he continues to say, I tried looking for you guys at Brick World Chicago last week, but I honestly don't know what part of the country you live in, so it may not be a convenient trip for you. But hopefully, I'll get to meet you guys at a Lego show sometime in the future. So, actually, I do live within driving distance from Brick World Chicago, so we had talked about going there, but with West like literally selling his house that weekend and kind of doing all the final touches on that, and then also packing and trying to move. He couldn't come, and then for me, I didn't want to just solo drive down there because it would have been a couple, quite a few hour drive for me as well. But certainly one that we may be at in the future. And then we will keep the channel updated. If we do decide to go to any, I know we're looking at a couple that are coming up too before the end of the year to try to get out to. So certainly would like to get out to some Lego shows in the future, either have an area for the actual podcast like way in the future, like once this thing becomes big enough, we could actually have our own like station there. I've seen some people do that. That would be super cool. But then of course, also to maybe have a display of one of our own builds. I know I'm actually working on, or as soon as I get this display stuff figured out and my sets built, I've always got sets to build, but as soon as I get the Lego display stuff set out, I'm actually going to start working on a mock of my own on that Valorant mock that I made as a Lego idea set, because I want to turn it into a real set and actually make a video of it for the channel too. So he said, take care and keep up the great work. Us AFOLs truly appreciate the work that you both do. So thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate the note there, and we'll make sure I respond to your email here tonight after recording. So and then Ya Boy Taco 2091 said, I feel like it'd be cool to see Five Nights at Freddy's sets, especially with the movies coming out. But it seems like it would be a little too dark for Lego, but I'm not sure what you guys think about it. So this is in response to our last week's episode, if Lego should make more adult focused sets or adult sets. And I actually think you're onto something here, Taco. We had kind of taken it, Five Nights at Freddy is definitely thematically more of a dark theme, right? But it's still a little bit, you know, how I say, teenage focused, right? It's not Saw, it's not Alien, it's not these, super dark themes, although it has some scary movie aspects to it. And I think it's obviously popular enough because they're making movies about it, but I think it's certainly a an area that I think would be interesting. I think if Lego was going to try to, we talked about how they might try to dabble into something that's a little bit more culturally appropriate or culturally known, so that if they do take a risk, they feel a little bit more safe. And I think that would be an interesting idea. Like if they're not going to do a you know hidden side type or monster fighter type of set, I think that's certainly an interesting idea of what they could come up with to kind of do it behind an IP. I know they did Scooby Doo, and that didn't go very well. I know I'd say Five Nights at Freddy is certainly a couple, maybe two steps up from like a Scooby Doo in terms of rating and scare factor, but it's not too far off. I think it's definitely closer to that maybe than like your traditional um, you know Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. I did want to log in here and say onto Lego Ideas and look up if it's something that they'd even accept, because Taco, I think that this would be an excellent avenue for you to kind of do that and own your own idea here. I think it's an excellent idea. And let's see, Five Nights at Freddy's. It says IP is not allowed. We've already evaluated it, and we can't allow submissions based off of it being inappropriate. Okay, so scratch that, Taco. Unfortunately, I don't think Lego would allow you. Well, I know they wouldn't allow you to submit it on Lego Ideas. So I guess it's a little too dark. I guess it is a little bit too dark. So interesting thought though, and one that certainly got me thinking for sure. So thank you guys so much for the brick mail. Really appreciate all the positive vibes, all the positive feedbacks. I know the last couple of months have been stressful for both Wes and I, with our moves that have been going on. So, and certainly I know Wes is feeling the stress right now. So seeing these nice and wonderful comments that are, not only how you personally think about the episode, but very supportive are really really awesome. So thank you so much. You guys make it certainly worth all the effort in the world to put this podcast together. So that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.